Being able to apply a certain type of strategy, which is very similar to what we've seen for hedge funds, for example, or from private equity funds. It's these elements that could definitely appeal to the asset management base.
So why is there a growing interest in Swiss asset manager funds?
Well, from what we've observed, the main reason for the growing interest in this particular product, the Reserved Alternative Investment Fund, has mainly been pushed by the underlying clients of the asset managers. The asset managers historically have always responded to client needs, mainly the institutional client needs, such as pension funds, particularly pension funds, insurance companies, and given the current economic climate, everyone is looking for value. And so with this particular instrument or investment vehicle that Luxembourg has come up with, what we've seen is the interest, or the primary reason it's generated interest is the time to market. These days, or historically for other investment vehicles that are regulated from Luxembourg, for example, you could wait at least 3 to 6 months before you get the final approval from the regulator in order to launch the product and in order to be able to distribute it. In this particular product, what appeals to many of the Swiss investment or asset managers is the fact that the time to market is much shorter. When I say shorter, it can be anywhere from 2 weeks to going up to even 4 weeks, depending on the type of investment vehicle they're going to have. The key thing is that people do not want to just leave money anymore by the asset managers because they know that the money is not going to generate any interest. So if an asset manager can attract or additional new money because of the fact that they offer an investment product which has a sound strategy and at the same time has a relatively short time to the market, then we believe or we see that this is definitely going to get a lot of interest.
So what does the asset manager hope to achieve from providing this investment to their underlying clients?
Well, what we've observed has been two key components. First component being to provide steady and good returns to their underlying clients because that's what their clients are paying them to do. And also the second part would be perhaps to achieve their goals for distribution. The beauty about this particular investment vehicle is that despite the fact it is Luxembourg domiciled, you can nevertheless distribute it to various countries in the EU, and it could potentially attract other underlying clients in other regions. Now, when I talk about distribution, again, it's a question of being able to market the product to an investor client base that they are looking to, I guess you could say, penetrate or to gain more business from. The attractiveness of this vehicle is going to be obviously the asset manager, up to the asset manager in terms of the strategy that they want to do. Because of this type of investment vehicle, it could appeal to, for example, asset managers that are engaged in private equity, that they are engaged in real estate funds, for example, or they could be launching it as a simple mutual fund in order to be able to entice a certain type of investment, underlying investor. So again, it could be someone as an underlying investor that could be an insurance company, ultra high net worth individuals, family office. It depends altogether on what their strategy is going to be. But again, what we have observed in terms of attractiveness has been really the time to market and the fact that the turnaround time in terms of setting up this fund structure, being able to apply a certain type of strategy, which is very similar to what we've seen for hedge funds, for example, or from private equity funds. It's these elements that could definitely appeal to the asset management base, which is perhaps why it's generated so much interest since the Luxembourg authorities announced the launch of this product.
How can BNP Paribas Security Services help Swiss asset managers who want to launch RAIF in the Luxembourg market?
Well, locally speaking, we have an office in Zurich. We've been in Switzerland for the past 15 years, and we've developed quite much in terms of acquiring new clients. Essentially, we can piggyback, I guess you could say, off the whole network of BNP Paribas Security Services offices, notably Luxembourg. From what I personally have been seeing is that my client base is predominantly Swiss asset managers who have the most of their funds in Luxembourg. And why do they have it in Luxembourg? Because for them, a Luxembourg vehicle enables them to achieve their distribution strategies, whether it's to distribute back here to Switzerland to underlying institutional investors, or to perhaps take the fund and distribute it to perhaps other countries in Asia, which allow for Luxembourg domiciled vehicles, or potentially the United States. So these are the various reasons. And so our role, or particularly my role, is to facilitate the Swiss asset manager to have and to engage with my Luxembourg colleagues. Because one of the objectives that we have here in Switzerland is just to ensure that the asset manager doesn't have to call Luxembourg and then potentially be passed around. We want to avoid that. So as a strategy, and it's a part of the group strategy, we always want to be where the client is. And in my case, when it comes to the client needing our services in Luxembourg, then I act as the interface to them, and I explain to them the world of BNP Paribas, but in collaboration with my colleagues in Luxembourg. From a Luxembourg standpoint, we're one of the biggest depository banks in the market over there. And the key thing that or I suppose you could say what makes us as a unique selling point very successful over there, is the fact that we have a lot of close ties to the CSSF, meaning the regulator. We have the experience when it comes to dealing with sophisticated investment fund structures. So we don't just concentrate on the classic investment vehicles such as the CCAV, but we also have a huge amount of fund managers who use us for their most complex hedge fund structures, private equity structures, and more recently we're going to be launching our first LTIF with a Swiss-based asset manager, but LTIF is a European long-term investment fund, and that's going to be launched in the Luxembourg market. And again, it's an investment vehicle that was recently created. So because of this, we've produced white papers, and we've also produced different types of presentations that were able to facilitate the asset manager in question, domiciled here, to domicile their fund in a market like Luxembourg. And the fact that we represent a certain level of stability, we see that it tends to be very appealing to asset manager who can piggyback off of our network, who can say that, okay, we are dealing with a very strongly rated bank, and therefore we have the know-how, we have the people, and we have the knowledge when it comes to enabling an asset manager to domicile this type of fund structure.
Well, thank you, Jeff, for speaking with us today. It's been a pleasure.
Same here. Thank you for the invitation.